Hi, everybody. Welcome to It May Interest You to Know. I'm Tony Marcolini. I'm joined today with my co-host, John Hartman, Martin Mongiello, and a very special guest, Charles Wachter. So let's go. Well, hi, everyone. We're today with Emmy-winning TV writer, author, and producer Charles Wachter. Welcome, Charles. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. We're happy to have you. We're pretty excited to get to speak with you. We're all fascinated with the part of your career, that deals with TV, as I'm sure most of our audience is. But I wanted to start with your book, if I could.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Look, I like. Oh.
Right, here it is. The Twin Paradox.
The Twin Paradox. Yeah. So TV is. I've been doing TV for 20 years now, and it's obviously a really creative profession and medium, but it's a collaboration, group, creative kind of business, right? Where there's lots of strong, amazing creatives that come together to make all facets of TV. And while I have a fair bit of autonomy these days in television, it's still very much like TV and creative by committee, like all the different decisions and stuff. Whereas writing, which was my first love, my novel is just mine. So it's sort of very close to my heart, and it's what I studied in college, and I was an English major in college. And
where'd you go to college?
I went to Yale.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So I was an English major, and I was maybe going to go into publishing, but I always knew I was going to wanted to write a book. And it was a hobby, and then it sort of just. You start paddling across the ocean. Eventually you get to land, and eventually I got to land after many years. And it's a science thriller called The Twin Paradox. So I'm very proud of it. Yeah.
It's the first in a trilogy, is it not?
It's the first in a series. I haven't decided if it's only 3 or more. I know what I'm doing with the next 2 books. I have the sequel is going to be published January 31st, called The Divine Paradox. It's honestly, it's a counterbalance to TV. Like I see them, they're related, they're creative endeavors, but I was working on the book this morning, and it's just a place that I can go and play, in a weird way.
When do you write? The time of day usually, or early morning?
Well, I used to be a rower as well. So I write from 4 a.m. to 6:30 a.m.
Wow.
I have young children. Well, not that young now. I guess they're 12 and 15. But I find that once the day gets going and all the emails and calls and TV stuff and family stuff and life stuff, I have to get it out of the way. And I remember reading about Dan Brown, and he wrote his first books at 4 a.m. Before he went to school as a school teacher. And I was like, well, I can do that. So it's my favorite type of the day. This is my office here. I'm actually looking at a beautiful lake right here. You want to see?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Still under construction.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's motivating.
So it's this beautiful little writing office I have for work up in Canada. So I wake up early and I write, and then once the day gets going, it's TV and family.
I heard that the woman who wrote 50 Shades of Grey, she wrote that her kids were swimmers and she'd write them at swim practices.
Isn't that crazy?
I
love the early morning. Some writers love the late night. I have a good friend named Eric Beetner, who's a really fantastic crime writer. And he writes like once the whole world has gone to bed, sort of. He writes from like 11 to 2, so it's like, yeah, but you kind of have to. I mean, it's a hobby. I mean, it's successful. The book's a bestseller, but certainly it's not paying the bills.
Are you Canadian?
I am. Yeah, I grew up in Toronto.
I was born in Toronto.
Actually, I have 4. Are you Canadian? Where are you from?
I was born in Toronto, lived there 9 months. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was born in Toronto and then went to college in the States, and then met my wife Tara, and then we lived in LA for 20 years. And then I realized that I only really need to be in LA when I'm filming, and I decided to bring the kids to Toronto for them to kind of grow up and be teenagers.
Well, so 2 years ago,
yeah, we left, and then So
our daughter is 10, and when I went to the Thomas Wolfe School for Creative Writing, our professor would often remind the class, and varied class, 60 to 70-year-olds all the way down to 20. But she would often tell us about Ernest Hemingway had a ladder in his garage. He would pull it up into the top of the attic so that nobody could come up there.
Yeah, I've read this. It's amazing. I read this great book called The Diary of a Novel, and it was John Steinbeck's diary when he was writing East of Eden, which is one of my favorite books. And what was amazing is if you read a book like East of Eden or Grapes of Wrath or a true classic, it's like gestalts, right? They're like almost perfect things in themselves, but you forget that like they're just people like us, right? They wake up, They got kids, they got and he'd be like writing about like a chapter or a character that is famous in literature. And he's like, in his diary that day, he's like, I started writing about Kathy. She's a monster on the inside, and some monsters don't look like monsters on the outside, which is one of my favorite character descriptions in all of literature. And he's like, but I got to go. I got to build a bookshelf. And he was like annoyed, and I was just like, I got to build a bookshelf, and Dan Brown was a teacher, and, the Shades of Grey author, she's at a swim. They're just real people, right? Doing stuff.
Well, I mean, your book has been very well received. The New York Times gave it a fantastic, by anyone's standards, review.
Yeah.
And as I understand, you've recently been approached, or maybe a done deal already, right? Haven't the rights? Aren't you in talks to the rights?
To be clear, Wesley read the book and gave me a blurb. It wasn't in the New York Times. He's the editor at large, critic at large at the New York Times. So just for distinction there. But it's been optioned by Dick Cook Studios, and Dick Cook was the chairman of Disney Studios during the Pirates of the Caribbean and Toy Story days. He greenlit those movies, and is wonderful. And we're developing it for television, for streamers. If you read the book, you'll see that it's got a very long arcing kind of central concept that will lend itself well to TV. And I'm a TV guy, so it's kind of natural. It may still be a movie, but streamers are there's a lot of big business in streaming dramas right now. So that's sorry. Yeah.
It's a fast-paced read.
Oh, thank you.
So I think that, anybody, I can imagine, as you say, it would really be one of those blockbuster as well, TV shows where people will want to binge watch. Yeah.
When I started to write the book, I didn't just start writing because I knew that I would write a terrible book. And I think the book's great, but, it certainly has its flaws because I learned a lot in writing it as well. But what I did was I wanted to write a Michael Crichton style thriller. And for anybody out there who's starting to write or work in TV or whatever, I'm a big advocate of just like studying really well something that a genre or a style that you choose to, you could be super original, but a lot of great originality actually comes from understanding your genre and then twisting it and doing some other things with it. And so I spent like 3 years breaking down Jurassic Park and Michael Crichton. So I kind of took my English degree from college, and I literally wrote like 160-page document trying to understand what made that book compulsively readable. It had obviously a very high concept hook, but lots of books have high concept hooks. And for him and for guys like Dan Brown, it's a combination of learning a huge amount of stuff, a very clean, simple premise, which is like, in Jurassic Park is like, don't get eaten, right? And a very short ticking clock and a very clear arena for action, right? So there's some basic kind of things they do really well, and I study them. And in designing the book, I kind of, use that scaffolding to come up with something that's unique to me. So, the book's a bit batshit, to be honest, but it's in the world for people who like those dense thrillers that are idea driven.
Fear Factor, which I kind of lead in for Fear Factor with Jurassic Park. I mean, you kind of get some ideas from
don't get eaten.
But I mean, that seems kind of like saying a good segue into what you did with Fear Factor.
Yeah. So, I do big competition shows and formats. I've done lots of action, adventure, and fashion, music, doc series. When Fear Factor was being rebooted in 2000, God, what was that? I don't remember the year. 15. It was without Joe Rogan. He had already become massive in the podcast scene by the time that they called me to basically relaunch the show. It wasn't much of a departure. We really were making Fear Factor, and nearly everyone from the original Fear Factor were on the show. So I was sort of the new blood in many ways, and Ludacris was our host on that. It's a really fun show to make. It's a lot safer than people imagine. Like every stunt you see in the movies, there's a certain amount of risk going on, right? But there's still the element of the human performance that they require stuntmen to understand in terms of being able to know how to roll or take a hit or fall. Fear Factor is designed to seem as sort of violent and crazy, but we can't rely on anything that they do for their own safety. Right. So we can't rely that they're going to remember to do something. And if they don't, they'll get hurt. Right. Because that you can ask a professional to do that. You can't ask a regular person to do that. Perfect example of like the kind of the tricks behind the scenes on Fear Factor is the buried alive gag, which had been done a bunch in the past. And we did it, which is you literally put someone in a coffin and then you take a bulldozer and you just fill that 6 foot, 8 foot hole on them, and there's no way to understand. You're like, okay, how can that be safe, right? Well, I guess maybe this thing's got oxygen, but what we actually do, because we've got those resources, is we build a building underground. So you've got basically, we dig a giant hole and we put like a container building in there, and then there's a whole drop side of that container, and there's like 3 dudes just hanging out in there, and then we put the coffin in, which is right next to there, and there's just a thin wall of dirt and then a drop wall, right? So you put them in, it fills up, they're in the coffin, and then literally the guys just like pull the wall and they can just grab the guy and they can all
I just watched how they do this on The Magician's Secret. I don't know if you watch that show or you like magic.
Yeah.
But it's a great show. He shows every act ever performed and how they do it. Yeah, he wears a mask the whole time. Nobody knows who.
Yeah, very controversial, right?
Yeah, who this clown is, but every magic.
Yeah, and Fear Factor's very similar, right? There are all these hidden tricks, safety tricks. Like we put people in the cage and we seat the cage by a crane, and they're like breathing through these holes. What people don't realize is that every single wall of that cage is Velcro, and like you could just go like this and pop out. So there's all sorts of safeties. The ones that stressed me out the most were the helicopter ones, because there's no fail safe to a helicopter crash. And the helicopters do some pretty intense stunts. Like our helicopter pilot primarily was, Christopher Nolan's helicopter pilot. And he had done that famous scene in Batman where the squirrel wingsuit people were flying through downtown Chicago, like kind of like squirrels, like through the buildings and everything. And then they were being chased by a helicopter. Like, I mean, yeah, like not hitting the buildings, not hitting the squirrel jump. I mean, it was like some serious stunt piloting stuff. So,
tell us,
some really good pilots.
Tell us, if you would, when we come back from commercial, about the celebrity dating game, because I think everybody has loved watching the dating game. But Tony, do we have a second to run over to a commercial today?
Sure. We'll be right back, everyone.
All right. So when we come back, we are going to head on over to celebrity dating.
It's weird, right? I do a lot of different things.
You did, yeah, you did like three episodes already for that.
Did you ever miss someone who has passed away? Now there's the Miss You Gram app, giving people a brand new way to tribute the lives of deceased loved ones, or simply remember tender memories. This exclusive app is a user-friendly social media platform, giving people everywhere a respectable and comfortable place to create private or public memoriams. Miss You Gram has additional features like chat rooms and links to deceased databases and inspirational quotes. Users can also comment and connect on public posts. Join us and keep memories alive forever. Everyone wants to be remembered. For more details and download on the Google Play or Apple App Store, visit miss-u-gram.com.
Join former White House chef Marti Mongiello as he brings to life colorful stories about America's presidents and first families that have occupied 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest.
Is when screaming guests are lit on fire inside the White House. So I know that everyone's thinking like, what did he just say?
It's time to be informed and entertained with Inside the President's Cabinet. Visit the website today at www.insidethepresidentscabinet.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We were just about to get into, I believe, the celebrity dating game.
Celebrity dating game. So, man, what a lucky gig this is, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about having fun at work. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that show's a lot of fun. You know, like some shows like are huge builds and long, grindy kind of processes, right, of getting something together for the premiere. But you're right, the dating game is almost like a dessert. It's a blast. Zooey Deschanel is just as charming and lovely as you imagine. She's a ton of fun, and you never really know what people are going to say, so it's always a surprise and fun to shoot. We shot actually 16 episodes. It just hasn't been updated, but we've been airing all summer on ABC. And
Yeah.
celebrity dating game is like the original show, right? Like there's one person on the side of a wall, and then the other side of the wall there's three people who want to date. Except in our case, the one person is a celebrity.
Funniest question so far, if you can remember a hilarious one.
The funniest question so far, the funniest answer. Yeah. The funniest question and answer was certainly Nicole Byers in the second episode. She asked, "How would you describe true love?" And the guy answering did his very best to answer, but his metaphor was waking up, having a really hot shower, and then going to the bathroom. Going to the bathroom, having a big bathroom situation, and then having a nice hot shower. And that's how he described love. And she was like, "What?" Yeah, and everyone was
that's definitely special, isn't it, Tony?
I'm guessing she did not pick him.
She did not pick him, but we had a good laugh. We had a good laugh. I mean, she had to be when people are on the spot on that show trying to, A, impress the celebrity, and B, have fun. It's tricky for them. And certainly they didn't know who the celebrity was. So there was an added game of the contestants not only trying to win a date with the celebrity, but also try and figure out who it is, which we had Michael Bolton there to help with.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you give them the questions, or do they make them up themselves?
Some celebrities were really involved and others wanted to help, so we would have sort of sample questions, and one of my producers would meet with them and kind of go through some of their, the questions. Some were more genuine, some were more there to have fun, some were kind of got that it's really a show about flirting, really. So we really were looking for people who wanted to have a bit of fun out there.
Anything super dramatic or soap opera drama that you can talk about in an upcoming episode without getting in trouble? Don't get yourself in trouble.
The final episode.
All right.
I don't even know where it. I don't even honestly. I'm not 100% when it airs, but the it's funny. Yeah, no, I technically can't share anything, but certainly we saved the best for last.
Yeah,
ABC did. Yeah.
Very important in your craft every day is that hook at the end of episodes and definitely at the end of seasons. Super important stuff.
Yeah, it helped with even book writing, like constantly looking for novelty and constantly reinventing what people think they're watching. I think is really important, whether you're launching a new show or it's a new chapter in a book or it's another episode or even another act. Like, sort of what we trade in is attention, right? We want to maintain attention. And the way you do that is through mystery, novelty, and heart and character, right? So if I had to pick some through line of all these things, I would say that those are like the things that I really gravitate to, things that have a really strong hook, have a good heart. There's nothing malicious about them. I mean, maybe pouring scorpions on people is a little intense.
Yeah.
But it's got good heart. There's novelty, creativity, and essential joyfulness and playfulness. I think is the stuff I like doing.
On Fear Factor, how would you come up with ideas like pouring scorpions on someone's head? Who would it be? Committee? Would it be individual?
You know what? There's on shows like that we have challenge producers and teams. So there's a group of producers. And on a show like Fear Factor, there's an executive producer named Keith Geller who's a specialist in that type of stunt and comedy. And then there are guys like Mike O'Sullivan, who I make Holey Moley with, who specializes in building challenges. Fear Factor challenges are really specific because you work backwards from what's possible and then you make a fun challenge out of it. Like people can hold their breath for so long. Okay, what can we do for that long? We can get this type of scorpion that doesn't actually sting. Okay, well, how many can we get and how do we keep the scorpion safe as well as the person? So you kind of work backwards from a body of knowledge with a group of producers who understands that world very well and has a lot of experience. I would say 15 years ago when Fear Factor first was started, they were figuring out these things. We're, playing jazz on their tune, right? So, they were the ones that figured out how you eat cockroaches. Most things that you eat on Fear Factor are eaten somewhere in the world. That's what people don't realize. We think it's gross, but it's like totally normal in some places in the world. So the food challenges are actually some of the easiest things. The hardest things are when you get helicopters and trucks and cars and explosions involved. You have to be.
Do you ever partake in the eating challenges, or you leave that just for the guests?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't do anything. I've learned I've tried to do everything at least once. So if there's a big rappel on a stunt, I'll do that once in my career. And I've, been in a helicopter chase, and I've done everything once just to say I've done it. And, usually it's fun and terrifying. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I got kids now, so I'm a lot more circumspect about that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, do you consider yourself now moving towards being an author, or will you always keep your hand in both?
To be honest, I enjoy writing as a hobby. If I had to make money on it, I'd probably be really I make money, but if I had to make a living doing it, I would find it stressful because it takes a long time to generate, not a lot of business really, because books are not a really big business unless you're one of the 20 people who broke out, right? Or 100 people. So I would say no, books are really just my playground. And I found success, which is lovely. And I hope to be done with TV in 5 to 10 years. And I would be writing full time. So I'm working on creating a readership and a brand for myself, so people want to read my stuff when I do it as a hobby, as a retirement activity. Yeah, I just enjoy it, honestly. I just really like it. I was doing it today. There's no reason to be doing it. I got a lot of TV stuff to do. I just, it's
as did I. I did. I'll be honest. I picked up the book in anticipation for the interview.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of it before, but I did read it, and it's easily doable in a day. It's a fast-paced read. It's not.
Yeah, I designed it that way. I studied a long time, and that's the one flaw of the book is it speeds up, and then it's over. And some people like meteor things, but. I looked at books. I remember with the Da Vinci Code. I was in England and I was jet lagged and I was kind of lying in bed at 11. I wasn't tired at all. And I picked up the Da Vinci Code and then I read it and went to breakfast, and it was fun. It's a fun experience, it wasn't work. And that's kind of what I tried to engineer. It's interesting now I'm working on the second one, sort of figuring out what I learned and sort of be a bit more, figure out what be a bit more nuanced with it.
Yeah, it's definitively a science thriller. It's not intended to be like literary fiction. It's not, but it is. It's a very enjoyable read. It's like candy, right?
It is. Well, one of the
eat the whole dish of that. The ice cream. You just can't stop eating it because what happens?
Well, one thing I know about Dan Brown and Michael Crichton is that they constantly give you nuggets of great things you didn't know. There's a lot of things you didn't know in books like that, or even like I'm friends with Charles Duhigg, who wrote The Power Habit, and it's got a very powerful POV and a really sophisticated structure that's really digestible, but it's full of these just really interesting facts and ideas. And when I read
the book, it's a very good book.
Yeah. So, and I think that's what I admire about great bestsellers is that you feel like you're learning. It's not just who did it or what is it or just the mystery of it all, but also just sort of taking away all these, like, really? Nazis wanted to drain the Mediterranean to make farmland? I didn't know that. Just stuff. And I save them. I save them like ephemera, like an old purse. I just like, oh, that's a cool idea. And then when I'm writing, I'll be like, oh, this would be a good time to talk about that weird lizard I read about.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in other words, you're kind of keeping like a little notebook where you stumble across something that piques your interest, and there it is. Like you just write it down. You're like,
okay. And it's a giant growing document of things, and once I use them, I take it out because it's been done. But I actually use Gmail a lot too. So I just constantly forwarding stuff to my Gmail with the label that I know that when I go searching, I could be like, oh, what was that thing about that oil rig that sank in the Atlantic? And then I use Gmail as a searching database with a couple labels for my books. Because I'll remember, I'll be like, what was that thing about those magnetic ants? You know,
I worked for a while, Charles, for Kathy Kennedy at Lucasfilm, and every trip she would come home, wherever she was filming, whatever. She would often have stuff cut out, torn out of magazines, and all in an envelope, which would go over to Elise, our head PA, and she would begin to put her brain together. And it could be projects like her husband, Frank Marshall. He would tell me, like, Marty, some films, we're not even going to make them for 20 years, 20, 30 years. The whole stack on the desk. He's like, that's how this business works. So it's just amazing to be in their home and pick up on these things. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned I have a giant. Early in my film career, before I started working a lot, I had a giant sketchbook, and I would do the physical version of what she did. I would like draw and storyboard and write notes. It's like this big. Wow. And in many ways, it was what I was producing at the time, because I couldn't, didn't necessarily have the access to funds to actually make something. But I go back to that every so often. I'm like, I got to finish it, or I got to keep working on it. But
how do you feel about the change in the industry with streaming, starting around Netflix and borrowing $25,000 from his mom to build Netflix?
That's crazy, right?
I know.
It's twofold, right? I think that streaming is a lot like the service economy for producers, in that there's more business than ever to be done on a service basis, like a work for hire fee basis, right? They're just buying stuff and making stuff. And they have these few over the top mega deals that they do with producers, that are obviously very lucrative. But what's gone out of the system with streamers is co-ownership and lifetime value of a project, right? So you'll sell some. I have a pilot at Netflix right now, and when they greenlight something, they buy its future value before it's been set.
Sure.
So they just buy the whole. They buy it for the whole world, and your fees are great. Their fees are premium fees. They pay well on that kind of basis, but on the future life value of it, it's really tricky. Whereas it used to be that you would sell a show in the States domestically, you would co-own or own or have some access to the worldwide rights to that. And that show that you do 10 episodes of in the United States, 100 countries does 10 episodes, and there's 1,000 episodes. And those are all deals to be negotiated and all licensing rights to be captured. And it was a much more sort of robust home run success version of the business that is not as accessible. Like there are much more corporate, there's much more sort of savvy financial entities now in television and film, where you can't really have that kind of Seinfeld hit as a creator. And if you have the right deal with the right show and the right partner. But
well, Tony, before you ask him, may I interrupt you rudely?
Go ahead.
I want to ask him what he's seeing right now, because this is like golden nuggets. What are you seeing as far as consumer product goods? When you sign something like that, we had a guy here, Boss Hogg in North Carolina. He was very, very famous from the Dukes of Hazzard. It had been about 20 years. He went out to LA. He said, SOB, I was walking up and down the strip by Mann's Theater. I went in a couple of the shops. Everywhere I go, there's license plates, coffee mugs, all types of stuff with Boss Hogg. And that CPG was in my original contract with my entertainment attorney. So I recontacted. Well, this was all in the news. Of course, Carolinians love, Dukes of Hazzard and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this was all in the news. Poor indigent, 78-year-old Boss Hogg got ripped off. They went to court. Of course, it's a 4 to 7 year process, extensions, delays, every filing you can think of to drag it out will drain you financially. You won't be able to afford to go the distance. They went the distance. He ended up getting close to $20 million in back settlement and stuff.
Wow.
But what are you seeing today when you do a project?
Merchandising, is always a bit of an afterthought in our deals, a little bit, because it's so rare to become valuable. You really have to have like a culture defining show. Holey Moley is doing pretty well on merchandising now. Certainly not a huge revenue source, but we're in season 4, and that's my ABC Violent Mini Golf show. So you're starting to use. There's certainly a lot of money in there, as history's proven, like Boss Hog and Star Wars.
Right.
And
well, Duck Dynasty. Every time you go in Walmart, there's everything: towels, flashlights.
I'm friends with those guys.
Store.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
My gosh.
Yeah, Duck Dynasty. Scott Gurney, who sold that with his wife Deirdre. I remember our kids were in Little League together in LA, and he's like, "I got to show you this tape." He showed me actually like the sizzle tape, and he's like, "This is gonna be huge." And I remember watching it go. I was like, "What? Duck whistles?" He asked me if I wanted to do it. I was like, "I don't know, duck whistles."
Now you remember Tony, who did that sizzle reel? Frank Monti, right?
Oh, right. Yes.
For Chuck Ardizone.
Yeah.
They came here and filmed a sizzle reel, and they said, "Hey, look, let us do what we want to do because we did the sizzle for Duck Dynasty." I was like, "I am just here to read the lines."
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit? You just indicated you have a pilot with Netflix. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So that's a game show, and it's basically a arcing game show. So most game shows are standalone, right? So people come on, they win or lose, and then the next episode's exactly the same. So that doesn't really work on a streaming model. So you haven't seen a lot of game shows on streamers. And Netflix is really invested in trying to, crack that space because obviously there's a lot of fans of that type of programming. So we pitched. I am on a deal with Sony currently, and we pitched them a concept where like 50 go in and one comes out. So it's got a game show structured episodically, but there's an arcing kind of trick to the show as you move through the season. And we've delivered it. It's funny. I have to do a write up as we speak. I got to make some changes. So we're working on getting that show greenlit to series. So there's a lot of moving parts on that. And Netflix has a different way of looking at it, right? They're all about completion rate, which is slightly different from an ad-based model like the major networks, which are looking at it from a point of view of ad sales and corporate sponsors and partnerships, right? So when they're buying, they're looking at the format differently, and I've found more success pitching to networks, being somewhat savvy of their business model, right? Because I know how they need to justify their purchasing internally. I mean, I don't know. It's still pretty new for me. I got a show with YouTube too as well, and that's a whole other beast. So
I can't tell you how many times I've quoted those guys on that last flight, going to Dallas to meet with Blockbuster to see if they would be interested to buy Netflix. So many times on stage, I've quoted them, podcasts, videocasts, TV.
It's hard to see the future sometimes, especially when you've got a mature business, like that's why we're doing a YouTube show, because my kids don't watch TV, right? So I can slowly age out and hopefully age out through the top and kind of write my books. But the truth is that there's just new ways of consuming. There's new ways of creating content.
And you get those people that tell you like, you're not on TV. It's like, God, oh my God.
What's that?
They'll tell you like, look, you're not on TV with your show. It may interest you to know. It's not a TV show. They're really negative and nasty.
I can't tell you how much money these influencers and creators on YouTube are making. So, I don't think.
I'm watching Charles we have a huge $4,000 QLED. We sit there and watch every night. Now, some nights we may watch hours and hours of our favorite channels on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Stunts,
the truth is,
funny, dancing.
A lot of YouTube has replaced really the cable model, right? If you think about what's really big on YouTube, there are a lot of the types of lifestyle, DIY, real estate, comedy. There are a lot of things that the cable did really well when they started peeling viewers away from the big broadcast shows. And, I've been watching the ratings on the broadcasters, and, more people than ever are watching television right now. Television being TV content that's, longer than 5 minutes, right? Whatever that is. But it's so spread out that the ratings on any one given platform, it's okay. And then occasionally you get a spike, right? You get like a Game of Thrones, a Masked Singer, and then any of the legacy shows tend to hold up better than you launch a new show you're automatically going to be at or below the market noise for a show ratings wise, right? But if you have a legacy show, and as long as you hold on to your viewers a bit better than the decline in ratings, you start to outperform. So that's why you're seeing Big Brother and The Bachelor and The Voice sort of outperforming the market, even though they're sort of older shows. It's because they're holding their audience as the audience is spreading out. There's enough kind of like brand awareness. So if I were a network, I'd be very remiss about canceling successful shows, because they'll, I've seen, and I haven't even talked about this with my TV friends, but I've seen that those shows are deflating less than the market. So, which is boring for viewers, right? But, it's just the way it is.
Ultimately find what they like, and they do tend to stick with it. So I agree with you. I mean, look at Grey's Anatomy. What are they in their 16th, maybe 17th season? And people keep coming back. I mean, I think so long as they renew it, the audience will remain there with it.
Yeah. And you got to keep it fresh. We're working on that with my ABC series, Holey Moley, which is like this violent mini golf show I mentioned earlier. And we're
seriously.
What's that?
They take their golf very seriously.
Yeah. It's if for those people watching,
that's an awesome show.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it's a comedy. It's like Best in Show meets Caddyshack wrapped around Wipeout, right? So real people are trying to play mini golf, and they got to putt through a windmill, and then they have to get through the windmill as well. But the windmill's on fire, and it just completely nukes them into the water, right? So it's an obstacle course, mini golf course. But each season you got to come up with something new. New twist. We got to build a completely new set from scratch, which is always a challenge.
You guys have got some big sets too, and some big stunts, and the biggest, miniature golf things that you've got to try to get through I've ever seen.
Yeah, every hole is about 100 feet, and we built 24 of them. We just built 24 we did season 3 and 4 simultaneously, which was a trick in itself, because we had to kind of keep 2 seasons worth of TV going literally simultaneously. It's not even like we shot season 3 and then 4. We were shooting both, which was it's a really silly, sweet show, but it's wildly complex logistically to produce.
I love mini golf, and I know I'm in trouble when I'm in the wrong meeting and somebody, do you like golf, son? I'm like, oh God, I hate golf actually, but I love mini golf.
Just so you say, I like Holey Moley. You're probably safe. Yeah.
Do you watch the mini golf show on TV? No, I don't. It's like,
okay. Next time someone asks you that, just say, yeah, I golf all the time. In fact, I just shot an 86. And he said, wow, that's fantastic. And he said, I would have done better, but my ball kept on getting stuck under the windmill. That was my dad's joke.
Hey, dad jokes are awesome. We have a 10-year-old daughter, Charles, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Our 27-year-old son, he's off and has a baby now and off to the races. So
congratulations.
Big difference. And I think yours are 12 and 15.
Yeah, 2 boys, 12 and 15. So they're, it's a great age. We're
probably not impressed with you at all, right? Like they see you as dad.
Honestly, I know from the outside, this all seems really, I don't want to say impressive, but the truth is they see me working really hard, and and complaining like the rest of us on days where it's too hard, and proud and excited about something new and exciting, just like anybody else. So
yeah, well, you're doing some really cool shows, man. A lot of fun. You've got a lot of fun in your life, and at least you're not doing murder, crime dramas or things like that.
Yeah, no, I do.
Some of the funnest shows on TV.
Yeah, and I'm lucky. I do a lot for ABC, and they trust me, and I have a good sense of that Disney kind of broad comedy that's family safe, but pushes it just a little bit so the parents can enjoy it. Yeah, it's fun. It's hard. I shot 5 series this year, and it's probably the hardest work I've done in my career. So
5 series, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So,
Jody Binstock was on yesterday from Los Angeles, and she's working on a lot of stuff. And of course, she was interesting. She said, this is a team game. When you're writing, it's just about you. but when you are doing television and film, we rely on each other. It takes
a
huge
it's almost criminal that because I'm the showrunner, I often get interviewed and stuff like that. But the truth is that every single show I have, there's another executive producer working harder than me, most likely, right next to me, like Mike O'Sullivan and Kate Shelbourne on Holey Moley and David Ruffsky on Dating Game. And every show it's a team sport, 100%. There's certain people that may be out front of the team and, at times, but, and that goes all the way to the production companies in the network. They're very savvy and they understand what we're doing. And a lot of times they're the ones solving problems for us. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we're kind of out of time today, but is there any place that you can direct audiences to go to get information about your projects or your upcoming projects?
In terms of my TV stuff, it's mostly IMDb. That's where I am. I don't have a generalized site for my TV work other than just the press that happens here and there for different shows. There'll be a couple big announcements in September I'm really excited about. I'm doing a scripted pilot for ABC. It's going to air, which will be my first scripted thing for ABC, which is fun. And then also a new studio deal that will be announced.
Awesome.
No, I don't think anyone actually cares. Like, I can't wait to find out what Charles' studio deal is. But it is happening.
Will you come back and talk to us about it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Keep us updated.
Yeah, and then the big thing for me outside of those things is the sequel coming out in January as well, which I'm very proud of and excited to share. And that's on my website, charleswachter.com. You can check out that. Yeah. I may add I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I add TV stuff to her?
I think you should, because I was looking for it to, if there were links to the right IMDb or to ABC.
Yeah. I guess I'm sort of like B2B a little bit more as a TV guy, right? Like I don't really have a public face. I mean, I do this, but unlike the scripted showrunners, there isn't as much appetite for guys. For me, even though I make just as much TV as them, I don't make the fancy stuff. So I haven't really publicized myself that much.
Yeah. Well, we're super proud of you, and especially all the fun you're having.
Yeah.
The fun meter's up to like a 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be better about like taking a few less shows and stuff. Cause I think I'm sort of discovering that there's a limit to the return on your happiness when you're working 16 hours a day.
Charles, you caught me here in the kitchen. We also own a country inn, but there's been years where I've blacked out whole months. Like, it's like, how much money do you need to make?
Yeah, and
maybe I want to take
and to what end, right? Like there's been we had some deaths in our family this year, which is very, eye-opening and a very strong reminder of how precious our time is.
That's right.
And my boys, they're just, I got 5 years, right? And then they're going to be off to college.
The memories in the hippocampus are priceless. Priceless.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm working on that stuff as much as anything, just making sure that I'm enjoying this time. So.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
And I encourage everybody to you can pick up The Twin Paradox on Amazon. It definitely is a great read. And you want to make sure you read it before the sequel comes out. And I'm going to ask Charles to come back, talk to us about his scripted show coming out on ABC and his sequel. So we look forward to talking to you again.
Good luck. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Great, appreciate it. Yeah. And good luck with all
summer.
Awesome.